Welcome, everyone. This is Glenda Dawson, and I have LD here with me. Yep, he's back. How are you? Anyway, we have
Nice to know I was missed, I think.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I'll try and make it worth your while.
so tonight we have a phenomenal uh, guest, Patti Starr. And um, she's going to tell us all about herself so we get to know who she is. How are you, Patty?
Oh, I'm great, great. And first of all, let me thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm loving it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on.
It's early yet. Hopefully you'll be feeling warm and fuzzy at the end of it. That's our goal.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So tell us about yourself so the audience can get to know you.
Oh my goodness. Well, um, I started, a lot of people ask me how I got started. How about if we go there?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was very sensitive, intuitive, and so hold on a second. Don't do that. I got some new bar stools, and the kitties want to scratch them. So anyway, I'm so sorry. Um, so basically, as I was growing up, I was just really sensitive, and I would hear things and talk, and I try to talk to my parents. But I grew up in a very strict Baptist home, and of course, that was not accepted, And so I remember when I was little, and I'd tell my mother a story of what happened to me. Oh, last night I saw this, or this happened to me, and she's like, "No, those were just dreams," and I'm like, "No, they weren't. They happened, Mom. I talked to them. I saw them. I felt them." And she was like, "Oh, you just have a real big imagination. That's what that is." And I'm like, "It's real, Mama." And then she would say, "Well, we just won't talk about that. And for God's sake, do not tell the preacher." So, for a long time, I thought I was doing something wrong. But, and then of course, as I grew older, and when you have children, I think everybody becomes pretty intuitive when you have children,
Mm-hmm.
and things just kept happening, and then I accidentally started getting what we refer to as EVPs while I was at work, because I would have my recorder. I would go in early when there was nobody there, and I'd have my recorder, and I would say things like, "Oh, over by the khaki pants, we need to make a display. Be sure to bring in the new jackets that came in." I would just make notes like that.
Right.
And then I would also make notes of the things that I wanted to prioritize and get done. And then sometimes when I would play the recorder back to make my notes, to speak to my staff, I would hear things. I would hear a name, or I might hear "help me." "Help me" was a lot that I would hear. And so I really started thinking more and more of being able to, uh, how can I use this device, to see if I can start speaking with them and see if they will answer me.
Mm-hmm.
Or in my photos, when I would take photos, like when I was in my early 20s, and I would take photos and things of the children, or at Christmas. And then we would get these streaks, or we would get shapes like apparitions and things like that in my photos. And I think, oh my gosh. And then I began to really think that maybe I should uh, go for this and not worry so much about what people will think or how they'll act. But it was really still a no thing. And it was a very much no thing to talk about until the X Files came on. And
Right.
I know this might sound silly, but I just noticed that when the X Files came to TV, it helped people to be more open about discussing these things that they saw or felt that were paranormal. Like, for instance, "Hey, did you see X File last night?" "Yeah, it was pretty wild. Well, I had something like that happen. X Files for me almost made it okay for people to admit
Mm-hmm.
that they were experiencing theme, because for a long time you just didn't talk about it.
No.
It just wasn't the cool thing to do. And so then, anyway, as I would continue to find these things going on, I started recording things, started keeping my pictures. I started experimenting and talking, and I started referring to them as my sweet spirits. And as time progressed, at one point, I took a course in ghost hunting. I found it online. It was like, at the time, there were only online that talked about
Mm.
ghost hunting. 3, that was it. It was like in the early, it was like 1999, I think, 1998, 1999. And I thought, well, with everything that I already do and know, it would be great to get to find someone that's done more. Course that I could take in a course. And then from there, I thought, you know what? I can take what I just learned from this course, take it from all my past experiences, and then
Mm-hmm.
I could teach this. So I started teaching at the Lexington Community College in Kentucky, and I taught there for 8 years. And I taught like a ghost hunting, and then I taught at what I would refer to as an advanced ghost hunting. They would get certificates, so it would make them certified ghost hunters, as I was.
Right.
And that was a real awesome experience. And then during that time, I decided my students wanted me to have a book to go with this course. And I thought, oh, how wonderful. So in 2000, I wrote a book called Ghost Hunting and Beyond. And it was a how-to book on how to ghost hunt. It even had the forms and things for you to take with you, to fill out, and especially if you did private residential investigations. And then it was good to have when you did business investigation as well. And it opened you up for permission to use
Mm-hmm.
the information that you've got and that I put in the book. And then I thought I need to have a shop. So then I opened up I had the very first ghost hunter brick and mortar shop in 2001. And that's when I started bringing in more books, and of course the book that I wrote. And then I would bring in the dowsing rods, and I would bring in like equipment, your EMF meters, and it just kind of grew. And I had that for almost 16 years.
Wow.
And it was called the Ghost Hunter Shop, and I did really well with that. And then I thought, you know what, I am going to do a convention. And there was a former student, and he sort of suggested that we do a horror convention. And I thought, I know I'm a ghost hunter, but I don't really appreciate the blood and guts and gore. I don't. And so I told him, I said, I don't know if I could do a horror, but I would consider doing a horror and paranormal. So I looked into it, and I found out it had never been done because the two genres just didn't get along real well. And
Right.
so I thought, well, so I had the very first horror and paranormal convention, and that grew really quick. And I had that from 2008 until 2016. And then between the 2008 and 2016, right around 2010, I decided, don't even ask me how I did all this, that I was going to have my mystical paranormal fair, which I had every month. And I would just bring people in that there were ghost hunters, paranormal investigators that did other things. They were readers that would read psychic readings, card readings, we had such a variety of people, and it was awesome. And I had about, I think, it was a small little fair, so I had about 40 vendors that would come in, and then we had a huge conference room, and we did free seminars. And then as the the Scarefest crew, we had between 10 and 15,000 people that would come to that event. And then, and unfortunately, right around 2016, my husband became ill to the point where I had to start taking care of him. And then the last 2 years of his life, which he passed in 2020, we I was pretty much 24/7, taking care of him. And so that's when I released everything and sold everything. And then and then when he passed, I moved to Nancy, Kentucky, which is a little lake community, which I absolutely love, Lake Cumberland. And so that's pretty much everything in a handbasket, I guess. And so, but from there, I just feel like when people ask me about ghost hunting and doing ghost hunting, I feel like I tell people I learned more about life from the dead than I did the living.
Well,
And
what's
it
the
was
most
nice.
profound thing you learned from the dead?
Oh my God. The big thing is energy. How they communicate and pass things on to us is through this amazing energy. And as I begin to learn and feel the energy, because that's what happened to me as a child, because I wasn't really ever afraid. There was one time when I had a shadow person when I was really young over my bed, and for just a moment I was very, very frightened until I started feeling the energy, and the energy made me laugh. And I thought that that's how I could identify whether something was okay for me or not okay for me. And so through just, I don't know, just it's just really funny, because I also learned that I would attract the type of energy that I attract was the type of energy that I would put out, like my frequency or my energy or my vibration. I would just keep drawing that into me. So, and that's why I started referring to them as sweet spirits. And then I began to, as I would go on investigations, and we would find out how this person died or why this person was here or there. We would have dowsing. I would have dowsing rods. We'd ask yes and no questions. And sometimes I learned so much just from asking questions. And some of the questions would help me to realize that sometimes when people are earthbound and they haven't completed that total journey, that sometimes they hold on to certain things that they did when they were alive. Like sometimes if they were, uh, say some type of workaholic or alcoholic or sexaholic or whatever, sometimes they would hold on to that, and they would seek out people that were having that type of abilities with themselves, and they were more or less not like possess, but more of an attachment, so that they could still feel that which they are finding a strong ability to let go. And now I'll clear up one thing though. One time I was explaining this, and I had some people listening get upset because they thought that uh, everybody with some type of addiction would get stuck, but they don't. Not everybody. And also, when people ask me questions, I always like to tell them that I'm going to answer you according to my experience, according to my beliefs, according to my research and what I've learned. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right one, or that it's something that I can prove, because I think everybody has to find out for themselves what this experience of life that we're going through, and then how we do approach things that we can't see or touch or smell. Well, sometimes we smell and sometimes we do see, but it has the physical aspect of it.
Right.
And so I like to put that in place. But I think in all the years of me doing ghost hunting and things of that nature, for me, the most convincing of all the things that I do are the EVPs. I really do love the fact that I can. And I don't know if you go on my website, I have a blog where I've actually posted some extreme, I feel like, are extremely amazing stories. People say, "Oh, what's the best horror story you have? The scariest story?" I don't really have those kind of stories, but I have amazing stories. And so, my EVPs are really, I mean, they're not like, perfectly clear, but they're clear enough that no, stop, that what they're saying, and and I did not run it through any type of equipment that would clear it up,
Right.
the voices. And so there's a little girl's voice um, that I got that was so, oh my goodness, she was just so educational for me. And when I first started the investigation, I always preface it with who I am and that I'm not here uh, to make fun of you or in any way show disrespect. I
Mhm.
just want to prove that you exist, and if you can work with me, we can do that. And so what happened was we were in an abandoned hospital, and I had brought 23 of my students, and I had to get permission, of course, from the judge executive at that county. And because a lot of reasons that I got to go into places that nobody else got to go into is because I could say I'm actually teaching a course in ghost hunting at the community college, and that just gave me a lot of credibility to get into all these
Mhm.
different places that most people couldn't get into. And so while we were in this um, place, when I go ghost hunting, I mic up, and I put I clip uh, the mic on my right around my epaulet because I have a vest that has one, and then I put the recorder in the vest pocket and turn it on, and it plays the whole investigation. And most investigations were 2 to 4 hours. Sometimes I felt like if you couldn't get what you felt like was a good investigation after 2 hours, you need to leave. But then if you go into a place and you're just getting one thing after another, the meters are going off, the pictures are good, then it's worth the what to stay a little bit longer.
Mhm.
So I would record everything. So what happened is I I was asked to come and do a seminar at the libraries in this one particular town where I did the investigation, and I thought, oh, this is awesome. So I had just gotten some great EVPs uh, as I was at the abandoned TB hospital,
Mhm.
and I thought, well, I'll put PowerPoint and let them hear this little girl that I've been able to communicate with. So the first I put on the earphones, and then I would start listening, to the tape that I played for the whole investigation. And I heard this little girl, and she said, "I've been sitting here all day." And I thought, oh my God, this is so awesome. So I put it in my file and I listed it as I've been sitting here all day. And then I put my earphones back on and I waited a few seconds later and I heard her again. But this time when she said it, I was speaking. The first time, nobody was talking. We
Mhm.
were just walking around. And then, so the second time I'm explaining something to someone asked me a question and I'm explaining it. And in the background, I could hear her say, I've been sitting here all day. And I thought, oh my God, that was the first that I got a repeat. Usually, when you get an EVP, you can, especially if there's a group of people, sometimes if there's 7 or 8 people, only 3 people might pick up the EVP on
Mhm.
one device. And
Mhm.
that would either be on a video device, recording video, or an audio device. And so I was so happy, jumping up and down, that I got her twice. So was when I was talking and she said, I've been sitting here. Okay, and then I stopped talking. All day was quiet. There was nobody
Mhm.
talking, so you could really hear the all day. So when I put that in my file to save it, I just listed it as all day, and I would understand why I did that.
Right.
So when I was getting ready to put this PowerPoint together, I played the first one, and it was in my audio, and I played it back. I wanted to make sure it was good and clear, and it wasn't too long. And she said, I've been sitting here all day, and I put that in, and then I went to get the second one, and the second one, when I played it back, it was supposed to be me talking, and then in the background, she's going, I've been sitting here. And then I stopped talking, and she goes, all day.
Mhm.
And the file that I saved changed. It
Mm.
said it started to have a lot of static and just noise, background noise. It was kind of like, and I was like, oh, where's my voice? And then the little girl came through and she said, did you get it in the camera? She didn't say I've been sitting here all day. She said, did you get it in the camera? And I went, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? Did I get it in the camera? Oh, she's talking about the camcorder. I ran and got my camcorder, and I pulled it up to where I was standing about the time that I got the audio recording of her saying,
Right.
I've been sitting here all day. And it was in the video recorder. So that I had picked her voice up in two devices. And that was
Very.
so awesome because I would usually get one or another, but not both. I was so excited, so excited. So the thing for me is she realized I had, I was saying, help me prove that you exist. She realized that I had not found this very important part of the video. So she
Mhm.
told me, she asked me, did you get it in the camera? So that was the first time I had ever had an EVP to change after I had filed it away in my computer.
Wow.
I know
It's
that is
amazing.
the absolute. I think that at that point, and if I had never gotten anything else, it would have been enough because so many different things happened that was like so awesome for me that had never happened to me. And I was just so, blessed to have this sweet, sweet spirit, as I call them, come through to help me with my process of learning about this, this other existence. And the energy is just always so good.
Mm.
And so that's why for me, that was just such an awesome thing. And then I got her several times after that too. Oh, she was so precious. And I would bring my students, see, and then we would do the investigation. And then when I go back to we I would reveal to them everything that we had gotten, and they would reveal to me everything that they had got as well. And uh, so I was very blessed that the county kept letting me come in with my students. And I think I went maybe about 8 times altogether. And there was one other time that, and I think all of these are on my website, but there was another time that we went in and I went to, they had some stairs, and I opened up this door, and it was underneath the stairwell. And as I opened it up, I it was just a feeling I had again, like energy that just kind of
Mhm.
went over me, and I looked in and there was nothing there. Sometimes we have to be careful going into these places because you have a homeless or you might have somebody trying to live there.
Mhm.
So at first I thought maybe I was just picking up on that. spirit and on that energy as well. But so anyway, I closed the door. We go upstairs. It was like a 4-story hospital, and we go upstairs and we do our investigation, and then we're getting ready to go home to close, and you can hear me say, "Come on, Chuck," my husband, "Come on, Chuck, let's go." And just as I go, "Come on, Chuck, let's go," you'll hear a little girl say, "Down under the steps." So I figured that what I felt was her, and she was telling me that she was down under the steps. And then there was another time that we all went, and I was wondering if there was a basement to this hospital. And so our goal was we had to be very careful because there were elevator shafts, and there were all kinds of debris and everything. We had to wear masks because it smelled bad. There's like
Right.
you'd run across a dead animal, like a cat or a possum or something. So you have to be, really careful when you go into these places. And so I said out loud to the students, "I wonder if there's a basement." And the little girl came through and she goes, "Go away." So I just felt like at that point she did not want us to go into the basement. And then I read an article like a few months later that they sent someone in. They were trying to sell the old hospital, so they sent someone in, and of course it didn't go through because of the asbestos, and it would cost millions of dollars to do that. But they did say that when they went down into the basement, that they did some type of testing, and I may get this all wrong, but with my terminology, but they picked up on a bacteria or something that they didn't recognize. And so I'm glad we didn't go down into the basement, because unfortunately that happens to a lot of these rambunctious types of ghost hunters. They'll get into places and then they get sick. They'll get an upper respiratory or something will happen. And so we always have to be extremely careful physically as we go into these places, that we're not getting like the black mold. And there's just a lot of things that we have to be careful, especially these abandoned places.
Now, you taught at a community college. I presume this was continuing ed?
Oh yeah, this was a non-credited. Like you can go to the community college and learn how to bake cakes or take ballroom dancing, or that type of thing. It was not accredited.
Right, but you would give them a certification that they completed the continuing ed. I read in your bio that you're certified.
Yes, and I did that online back in 1998. There was a couple that they had a program where you could get certified, and I took their program, and they did like the EVPs, and they did videos and audios. And I had quite a bit myself before I took the course. I just wanted to see what was going on with, and I was so happy to find them, because like I said, at the time there was only like 3 websites at the time that had anything to do with ghost hunting. And I can't remember Dave and Sharon something. I can't remember their names, but and so what I did is I took my certification, and then what I had learned from them, and then I took all of my experiences and all my things that I had saved, my recordings, my pictures, little ghost hunt things that I did way before I started teaching it. Oh my gosh, I had been ghost hunting, and I'd been written up in magazines and newspapers and just things like that, local, and for a while, and I was able to use a lot of that in within what I wanted to do when I started doing the class. And then I did a PowerPoint, and we did 6 weeks. Each class was 6 weeks, the intro and then I think we met one night a week or something to that effect.
Now, how did you break all this to Chuck?
When I was dating him?
Mhm.
How'd that work out?
This is so cute. Okay, I had been single for 7 years,
Mhm.
and I learned that when I dated, I better tell them on the first date that I'm a ghost hunter because it's not going to work out. Most of the time, it's like, oh no, I got this crazy woman, and so I just on our first date, I just told him. I said, "Well, I'm going to tell you one thing about me that I think you need to know right up front, right quick." And I told him I was a ghost hunter, and he kind of stood, kind of sat back a little bit and looked at me, and he says, "Well, I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but then I don't know if I don't believe in ghosts." So he was pretty open minded about it, and he did eventually just going with me. He was my videographer. He's so funny. He used to say, "Now I'm a videographer," and I didn't even know how to spell it. He was just real funny about things. And so he started witnessing things and having moments where he couldn't explain what was going on, and he liked it. He was very, very, very supportive.
Well, that's great. It's nice that first of all you're upfront with it right away, because that's something I think we both agree about, that you don't want to get into a relationship with somebody and say, oh, by the way, I talk to dead people.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but so I'm glad that you did that early on and early into it, and that he was comfortable with it. That's a really great story about you know how the two of you grew into it together.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. He was. Yeah. He was very special. Very supportive. And he was like my biggest fan. He was always, you know, talking to people and bragging to people. He just made me. I was his girl. In other words, and it meant a lot to me. Yeah.
Well, I can appreciate that because I'm her biggest fan, but a lot of that's her cooking.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one thing that I've never been really good at, but I want to tell you something. Over the last 3 years, it's been 3 years since he passed. Over the last 3 years, I've kind of put a little more time into my cooking, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, good.
Mhm.
Before, I stayed so busy with all my businesses, and oh my goodness, I just never had time. And then when my kids were growing up, I had a management position in retail, and I worked like 80 hours a week. If you know what that means, to be
Mhm.
salaried, they work you ungodly hours.
Mhm.
So I just never got into too much cooking, but I am into it now, and I'm pretty good at it.
There you go.
Well,
Yeah.
our experience, because between the two of us, you're looking at about 120 years of experience
Oh,
um,
wow, my
in the
goodness.
paranormal. So, I
Wow.
can appreciate, uh, and our take on it is that you never stop evolving. That's why you're here. So I'm glad that
Oh, I
now that you have the time, you've gotten into that now and you're enjoying it. And now how about your kids? Are your kids into this?
Oh, it's just so funny. My kids really aren't. And when they were little, I would have little episodes, and I would try to talk to them about it. And there was a couple of times that we went to a haunted house together, but it
Mhm.
just kind of was a thing. And it was so funny because sometimes my son, and especially when he was around 14, 15, he would come say, and he would say to me, he had a good friend, he'd say, Mom, Dan's going to come over for a little while to visit. We're going to hang out. And I'm like, okay. And he said, can you just not act weird? I was always prompt
You
him.
know,
Just don't act weird when they're
my
here,
son would say
okay?
the same thing to me, and I say I'm not acting, but
Uh, well, I just
well,
appreciated them. But I mean, as they got older and then they had children and they become a little more accepting of me having this, but they are not. They are not interested in doing any of that.
And
So
that's okay. And it's best if they're
yeah,
not interested that they not
yeah,
do it.
yes.
Now, what about Ouija boards? How do you feel about them?
Well, I told you that I do a lot of things on vibration.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And at one point, that was a question that used to come up a lot. And I would think about it and think about it. And a lot of times, I like to say, you kind of get into a meditative state and you kind of upload, download, and all this and get all
Mhm.
this information. And so I asked a question once about I want to be able to explain the difference in like using a Ouija board and using dowsing rods because I'm not a Ouija board fan because I feel that it is a little negative, but I love dowsing. And so either with a pendulum or dowsing rods or my body, I like doing the leaning
Right.
and back and all that.
Mhm.
So the the one thing that came to me as I was asking this question in a meditative state um, was that if you could hear the sound of or the vibration, the frequency of a uh, Ouija board, it
Mhm.
would be in the lower tones. It would be.
Mhm.
This makes it easy. Angels can come through, or that positive energy can come through, but also the dark can come through because
Right.
it's slow. If you could hear the energy of a dowsing rod or a dowsing procedure with another instrument,
Mhm.
the vibration sound would be so fast. It would sound like a whistle. In other words, like that.
Mhm.
The angels can get through, or the positive energy can get through that, but the lower energies cannot.
Right.
And so that helped me to understand why I would do so well with my dowsing rods. But I did buy a Ouija board one time. I just wanted to look at it. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to, but I never actually called upon it. Now, I know there are people out there that can use the Ouija board for good, and I do
Mhm.
not condemn it. And they know procedures to take. They know how to do the set up the light, the setup. They may take physical precautions with salt and different
Mhm.
things.
Right.
And so I don't dismiss it at all
Mhm.
because we are all very different. We are like I tell people usually I've always been just so lucky to deal with the more positive energy of what I do.
Mhm.
Now, I've had people call me and say, there's something in my house, it bit my husband, it scratched my kids. Well, you know what? That would probably be a little too negative for me, because that's not where I feel I'm at my best. But I have friends that are like demonologists and they study that and they understand it. So I would recommend them
Mhm.
to go with someone that is better at that energy. I'm not saying that, oh, I'm so good that my light is so bright. I'm not saying that, but that's where my what I've learned from my energy. So I know there's a difference in the paranormal where you see things that are not really uh, uh, favorable as far
Mhm.
as going into a place, the smells or the being. Now I have been pinched, I've been kicked, and I've been pushed, but I never felt it was evil. I felt it was desperate. The
Mhm.
spirits were really trying to get my attention.
Mhm.
And so again, I still had a more positive reaction to it than that of being a demonic type of energy. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but for me, I have not had to deal with the dark.
Well, I'm
You
really
know.
glad you shared that because I think you're right. You know, the law of attraction, because you are so positive and you bring yourself to that higher frequency, and that's a lot of what you use to do your work. Um, that you basically are able to keep the lower frequencies away.
Yeah.
Um, we get called in a lot of times when people have instigated and stirred things up, and like I said, you're looking at 120 years just about between us, and
Right.
Glenda is able to. We call it remediation and resolution. Actually, is what we do.
Oh.
We know it's there.
Yeah.
We're trying to get it to a state where everything can coexist in harmony.
Got.
But as far as the Ouija boards, we both, I think, feel that the board in itself is the prop.
Yeah.
What it does is it helps you focus.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need the board to do that, then you're not prepared for what can come through.
Right.
Uh, and I would say that the people that use the boards, and I'm not, if they have their procedures and their protocols, then they're probably using the board as a means of part of what they do, as opposed to relying on the board itself.
Oh
Uh,
yes.
but
I see what you're saying.
our concerns is we know kids that go out and they buy these things. I've known kids that can open a portal playing a violent video game. Um,
Oh.
yeah, so that's why we kind of feel the way we do about it. But it's really nice to hear you go into the differences in the frequencies and how you keep it positive. That I don't think we've encountered someone that's framed it that way before.
which,
Oh
which
wow.
is
Well,
a
thank you.
very, very good point because, like you said, the Ouija board brings stuff in, but it could bring positive or negative.
Right.
And there are certain things that will only bring positive or at least maintain the negative away. Like
Right. Right.
a pendulum will only give you yes or no answers, basically,
Right.
and it will not necessarily bring something in. It will
Yes.
just be like an amplifier to their voice, basically.
Yes. Yes.
And we've actually done work in places that were so negative that they shut all the electronics down.
Hmm.
Oh.
And the only way that we were able to move forward was with a pendulum.
Oh.
And
Well.
we were able to get all of the answers to the questions that were asked that day with the pendulum, and it kind of saved the day.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, so we've experienced places that have been that negative.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, but I really appreciate you framing it that way, because it is all about frequency,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
a lot of the higher beings are on the higher dimensions and the higher frequencies.
Right. Right. Right.
And I agree with you. It's not everything that's negative is evil.
Oh yes.
But-
Yes, I agree. Like think of personalities. Sometimes you can
right.
have a grumpy, sometimes you can have a spiteful, but it doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily mean it's evil. It
Right.
may be an uncomfortable energy where it wants to pinch or pull or shove, but it's sometimes when you begin to get connected and really communicating, you see where their pain is or where their frustration is, and
Right.
it's not evil or demonic.
No, it's just that they're probably angry because 100 different teams asked them the exact same question. Can you knock on? Can you knock on the door, or can you knock on
Yeah,
the wall? And they're like,
right.
again,
Or they've come in and been disrespectful and
right?
actually
Oh, yeah.
vandalized, and
Hmm.
that's their home.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. It's really funny because when I first started teaching and really getting big groups together, and then I would advise my students when they would leave my class to
Hmm.
to recruit in their little hometown or in their little communities, and
Hmm.
start their own little groups, which they did. And so uh, the the groups began to grow, and even I noticed when I retired, take care of my husband back in 2016, I started going on YouTube, and my son actually turned me on to it. I'm just right now. I'm just like a YouTube freak, and I watch YouTube every day. But I have a lot of different categories, and I have a lot of different subjects and things that I'm interested in. But I'm going to tell you something. I had no idea how many paranormal, ghost hunting, and there's so many out there, and they're fun because
Mhm.
some of them are very young, and a lot of it's you know based around drama because they have to get the clickbaits going, and things like that.
Mhm.
And but I've learned from those. I've watched them and I've thought, oh, I never thought to ask that question, or oh, I never thought to shine the light this way. I just
Right.
absolutely love all of the nuances and things that are happening with the ghost hunters now. But then again,
Mhm.
because they are more and more and more and more groups getting together and ghost hunting, uh, they are going into places like you've heard of Waverly. I don't know if you've heard of Waverly or
Yes.
not. It's in Louisville,
Yes.
Kentucky, and then you have other places around here, and people are these groups are going in, and some of the groups are like you said. They have a more positive attitude and they're
Mhm.
respectful, and then there's
Right.
other groups like, come on, let me see what you got. They want to be disrespectful and maybe not as nice. But I don't think I really do love this community. I think there's more people in this community that have such a genuine, and
Mhm.
it's such a they're very diverse, and they don't criticize, and they
Mhm.
don't they just want to learn, because what did you learn on your investigation, and what can you show me? And I just love that, and I see a lot of that in the paranormal community. I just
Yes.
love that. Yeah.
And speaking about people that are broadening the community, we just had Brian show up, or
In
at
the
least I
chat
just
room.
know him in the chat room.
Yep.
Um, Apparently, you two know each other,
Brian
Yeah.
Laverty. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and I was actually going to discuss with him and you, Brian. Patty wants to do a podcast, but she wants tech support. So we thought maybe we could, bring the two of you together, and because he's got a very expansive network.
Still here. He's still
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yes.
All right.
So, if you two have a way of reaching out to each other, maybe that's a
Okay.
discussion you guys
Yes.
can have, because I was thinking that, he does so much with it now, that and to be
Yeah.
able to have you're
Yeah.
very much your own wavelength and your own
Mhm.
treasure of experience.
Yes.
And I think it'd be
Mm.
wonderful to have you do those podcasts.
Yeah, they're friends
Yeah.
on Facebook.
Well, I do have a young fellow that as a matter of fact, we sort of he got me up on my first YouTube, and we were doing really, 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 really well with that. I mean, when I say really well, I mean we did like 13 episodes, and then things just he got really lucky with his job, and then I got involved in moving from one place to another. You know how that goes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We're erupted, and I really need to probably reach out, but please tell Brian that to message me on Messenger,
Mhm.
and we could talk and we could see what's going on. But it might be something that he could share with me.
Yeah.
So that would
He's
be
he's
fun.
still there,
Yeah, he
and
says you're friends on
yeah,
Facebook,
him.
so
Yeah. Yes.
hopefully the two of you will be able
Yep.
to work something that
Yeah. I
is
just
mutually beneficial, because I would watch those podcasts, and
Yep.
I don't watch a lot of podcasts.
well, it's really funny because I'm I'll tell you what, with all the work that I used to do and all the things that I had going on, I had like 4 businesses. I'm really enjoying not doing anything.
But
I
you said you were
am.
feeling
I
called to
am.
do these, and if you
Oh,
are, I
yeah.
think you should do them.
Well, I just with other thing. I it's not that I want to stop any of the paranormal or anything like that. I would never, because I've just learned so much and it's so ingrained in my heart. But I am having fun kind of learning some other things like
Mhm.
motivational encouragement speaking and things of that nature. And then I've been enjoying the heck out of cooking. And I just over the last 2 or 3 years, I've just found another side of me and I really
Right.
like it.
Well, it'd be great if you could bring motivational speaking to the paranormal, because
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
imagine
I
what
would. Yeah. Thank you. I would love to do that.
imagine
I
the
I,
EVPs.
oh my gosh, I love my EVPs. If y'all get a chance, go on where I do my blog and listen to the little girl and listen to some of the EVPs that I've gotten. It's just they've been fun. And the fact that I didn't have to alter. Uh, I may have made it louder or lower, but I'd never put it through a processor. You know, one of those.
right.
Only because I don't know how. I
Well,
But
I
it's
think
almost
there's a lot
better.
to be said for the rawness of it.
Yes.
There's so much you can do now with
right,
manipulation that
right.
I trust things much more when they're just
Yes. And
as they came in.
right. And that, like years ago, and not recently, but years ago, I remember once I got the little girl, I think in 2001. But uh, it's and I put it on my website, and they weren't like I said they weren't when I got my website up. There was only about 5 or 6 of us on
Mm.
when I finally got my website up in 1999. And but anyway, I would sometimes somebody would post and say, "Oh, I got this, and it was evil, and it says I'm going to kill you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh," you know. So I would hit that button to listen to it, and it would be so uh, filtered, you know, where they go in and they try to take out the, and it would be. And I was like, how in the heck did they hear I'm going to kill you out of that? And I thought, wow, they should hear some of my EVPs. You can actually make out what they're saying. So but things have changed, and I'm sure there's probably programs where I could probably take. Oh, I had thousands and thousands of EVPs, but over the years, changing. I've had files to go corrupt and lost a bunch. I've had just different things happen over. I started collecting EVPs probably in the early 1990s is when I really started doing with the EVPs. And then I met a guy that was an electronics engineer, and
Mhm.
he introduced me to the EMF meter. That was like so awesome because I would put I bought the cell sensor meter, and I would put it in my pocket on my vest, and I would put the probe up here and walk around, and then I stopped dowsing with my dowsing rod because I would get him to come through on my meter. And I
Mm.
would say, if you're in the room and you'd like to talk to me, would you please make the meter go off? And I wait, and it would go beep, 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 and it'd be it. Now, if you're getting like a false reading, it's going to go,
Yeah.
because you're picking up. But it would just do little beep beeps. And then I would say, I do the thing like, are you a girl or are you a male or whatever. And it was kind of neat because when I went to the TB hospital and I started using the dowsing methods and everything, and I would say, are you a male? Are you a
Mhm.
female? And sometimes my dowsing, it almost seemed like it was confused, and I would be like, and then I realized that children don't know male or female. So I'd have to
Mhm.
say, oh, wait a minute, are you a little girl? Are you a little boy? And then my meter, would go beep, 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 would get, and then sometimes when I would get children, they would start playing with it. And
Mm.
I wouldn't scold them, but I would have to say, now I know that's fun, but can you just leave it for a minute, let it get quiet, and it'd be going beep, 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 you know. And so that was like one of my absolute favorite thing to do was to use the meter. So, if you know, like right now, if I had a choice, if somebody said that you can only take three things on a ghost investigation, it would be a recorder, an EMF meter, and uh, my phone to take pictures and videos, or either a video recorder, you know, that type
Mhm.
of thing.
Well,
And
as we're
I'm old school.
That's
th-
okay.
there's nothing wrong with old school. Sometimes old school, instead of AI, is a lot better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had said we were going to let you know when we had about 5 minutes left, and
Oh,
that actually happened while you were talking just now. So we
oh,
have a few minutes left. Is there anything you
okay.
want to touch on that? And Brian's saying he put Cooking with Patty on his network.
Yeah, he said it
So
would be a great show.
yeah,
There you go.
My
but
goodness.
is there anything you want
Yeah.
to touch on before we go?
No, just I just hope that people will just check out the website and listen to some of the audio. I mean, the audios that I took, and also I posted the little video. Little girl came through, and if you'll notice, her voice is clearer on the video than it is the audio. And she has a southern accent too. I loved it. She has a real southern. She says, "I've been sitting here all day." It has the cutest little accent. Yeah. That's it. And
Oh,
thank
that's
y'all so
wonderful.
much. This has been so much
Thank
fun.
you.
I hope
Oh,
you'll have me back.
of course we will. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. If just hold for a second, and we
Okay.
want to just tell everyone to, check her Patty stuff out. We have on the video, we've been putting up the websites, and also we will have
Thank
it
you.
all in the description. So please look at all the experience. Okay,
And
this
and
is how you
you
learn.
you spoke about how files have been corrupted over time. You had a girl change what she said in the middle of a file that wasn't corrupted.
Right.
So
No.
people got to understand this energy is fluid.
Mhm.
Well, and this real quick. Well, I won't keep going. I know we got to cut, but I was going to tell you something else. Well, there'll be another day. There'll be another day.
Yes, of course, definitely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Patty.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone in the chat.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Yes.
Yeah.
And I just want to say many blessings to everyone. And as always, we love you. And we're going to see you next week. Hold on, Patty. Bye.
Bye.